pitch is looped toward shortstop. Petroselli's back. He's got it. The Red Sox win. And he's pandemonium on the field.
Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, brought to you each week by the National Sports Collectors Convention. Join us every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and get the latest news from the greatest experts in the sports collectibles world. You can watch us on the Great American Collectibles Facebook page, as well as YouTube, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. And now your hosts, award-winning sports collectibles author Tom Zappala and Boston radio personality Lou Blasi.
Gentlemen, how are you? How you doing?
Excellent.
How's everybody doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
Leighton,
Great.
is Leighton? Can you hear us, Leighton?
I can, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're with us. I didn't know if your mic was on and off. Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. Tom Zapp, my co-host, my partner, great guy, been with us a lot of years, on and off. Lou Blasi,
Yeah,
Louis from the. Where are you right now? At the sports.
DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yeah, at the casino.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Brian Drent, Mile High Stadium. Look at that tan, Brian. You look great, man. You look very, very, very stylish.
Thank you.
I know it's the spring auction starts this week on Thursday. And Leighton Sheldon, our compadre, Leighton from Just Collect, but Leighton is collaborating, as everybody knows, with Ellen and I on the new book project, along with Joe Orlando. And we're really excited about it. Legendary Finds in Sports Collecting Treasures. We're going to talk about the book a little bit because Brian, and not only Brian, but Brian and Leighton, everybody else, all right? I mean, everybody else in the hobby has really, really stepped up to the plate. And we've talked about some of the great finds that they're involved with. We've talked to some of the private collectors. There's some cool stories, Leighton, huh?
Yeah. Oh my God. It's been so much fun collaborating with both you and Ellen and Joe. And also, I just want to give a special shout out to Lou. I'm so happy to be back on with you, Lou.
I know it's been.
That's
it's
right.
been
You
a
guys
while.
have some history there.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? We've got to know each other pretty well over the years. And of course, it's always fun to spend some time with you, Bri. And it was great to hear about Italy, but I don't think you were securing consignments over there, if I had to guess.
No, but my phone's always on.
It's always fun. All right, so yeah, we're gonna get
right?
you
Good job,
guys.
Bri. I like that.
Leighton's going to join us for the first segment. Obviously, Brian's here for the whole hour. We're going to be all over the place talking about Brian. I'm looking at the items in this auction, man. You've got some killer stuff. I mean,
it came together well at the end.
Are you kidding, man? Yeah, we're gonna.
It always is.
1,800 lots. We're going to talk about that. The reason I asked Leighton to come on, obviously, is we're getting real excited about this book project. As I mentioned, everybody has just stepped up to the plate, from all of the great auction houses in the country to private collectors to the National Sports Collectors Convention, PSA collectors, Nat Turner and his group. We're really, really excited. And we just want to kind of whet your appetites about some of the items, some of the things that are going to be in the book. So we're going to use Brian, obviously.
A little bit for this, though.
I'm sorry.
Can I set you guys up for this a little bit? Because working with Leighton on his show, one of the things that became very evident to me, and you guys are capitalizing on it, is that it's about the card, sure, it's about the collectible, sure, but in Leighton's show, every week it was a backstory. It was a backstory about where they came from and what their history and what their travels were to get to this particular point. And those became so fascinating. And it's a huge part, undercurrent of this whole hobby. And I'm glad you're writing a book about it, because it's one of the things that makes this so special.
Well, you're bringing up a good point, because we, myself, Ellen, and Leighton, now, we have all these sets of eyes on each narrative. I do it, Ellen does it, Leighton does it. I send it over to Joe, and then from us, after all the editing is done, it goes to the publishers, editors. And I think, Leighton, you'll agree with me, some of the backstories are flabbergasting. You know about the Uncle Jimmy find, using that as an example. But when you hear the backstory about Uncle Jimmy and how he grew up and all of that stuff. It's a fascinating story. The same thing with the Lucky Seven find. And Brian, we're going to use you as an example. I don't want to get into the details because we don't want to spoil the stories. But one in particular, the Oklahoma find. You know, I had no idea what the Oklahoma find was. I mean, can you give us just a little thumbnail of what the Oklahoma find is without giving it all away?
Yeah, sure. It was more of a, you know, I don't know about a find, but a collection that was so under the radar that this gentleman had built. And remember, you and I talked, and Tom, I told you that this guy could have walked into the National, and he could have walked in front. You know, it's like, and Leighton will agree with this. We all know, or we think we all know, all the best collectors in the country.
Exactly.
And when they come to our table at the National, that's our time to be in front of our customers and have interactions with them and be able to, you know, get that FaceTime with our best customers. This guy legitimately, and I think by his own admission and maybe the way he just went about things, he could have stood in front of Heritage's booth at the National, or REA, or Golden, or Memory Lane, or you know, and quite honestly, at one time, my own booth, and
Sure.
and stood there and jumped up and down and waved his arms, and we wouldn't have known who he was.
Now, with that being said, just give our audience one item that he had.
I'll give you two.
Okay. That he owned, that, again, under the radar.
He had
Go
two
ahead.
T206 Wagners, and I didn't know who he was.
Two T206
And we got him both.
Wagners, and nobody knew who
That
he was.
hit Leighton hard.
I mean,
He also
think
had
about
a
that.
T206 Doyle, and you know,
All right. So,
in addition to the Wagners.
so with that being said, we're going to end it there, that story.
Yeah.
But the backstory is fascinating. It's fascinating. And that's some of the things. Now, again, as Brian says, it's really not a find, but it is a find, because Brian, he found us, he found Brian, and Brian found him. But the way the book is broken down into, there are the legitimate famous finds that we all know about, but then there's a section called Epic Treasures that they're not really finds, but it's like somebody walking into Mile High Auction and say, hey, I have this card that was left to me by my great grandfather. Take a look at it. What do you think? And the backstory is amazing.
Yeah.
Brian, you got another one here, the beer box find. Can you just give us just a little tease on the beer box find?
That one's a lot of people's favorites, and it's one of my favorites too. I mean, we all are enchanted and captivated by Unopened, and that way that started is I was on the phone with a really good customer, and I think I told you this story, Tom. And you know, one of my employees came in. Our head writer, Mitch Rosenberg, comes in. He's like, "Hey, there's a guy on the phone. You got to take his call." And I kind of shrugged him off, and what I was talking about was pretty important, or I thought it was. And finally, he came back, and he had a tablet, a yellow legal pad, and he had taken a marker and he wrote a 48 Bowman unopened wax box, 61 Fleer basketball unopened wax box, and a couple other wax boxes, you know. And I remember saying to the person on the phone, "Hey, do you mind if I you know, I got to grab this.
I got to put you on hold.
I gotta go.
Do you mind if I give you a call back?" So I got on the phone with the gentleman, and we talked for about 5, 7, 8 minutes, something like that. And he told me who he was, and you'll read about it in the book. But his family owned Donruss at one point. And so the way the beer box unopened find came to be was it wasn't a collector. It was Donruss that they were buying their competitors' products and opening maybe a pack. That's why there was non-sports too. and to see what the competitors were making. And then they just shelved the rest of the boxes. After about 7-8 minutes, we're on the phone and he says, hey, you know what? He has a Southern accent. He lives in Memphis, where Donruss was. And I said, he says, you know what you should do? I said, no. He said, you should get here. And I said, hey, can I come tomorrow? He said, you'll come tomorrow? I said, I'll be there in the morning. This is at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Don't go any further than that.
Yeah,
but
that's
I mean,
how
it was just. I mean, what the guy had to show him is like mind-boggling. And Leighton, I want you to tease about the Quinn find, because
sure.
I mean,
well, first off, Tom, you're doing a great job, because I already want to read the book as it stands. And this is one of the things I've noticed as I've been telling people about the project before I comment about the Pat Quinn find. Bri, great job storytelling. It was really fun to listen to it. Even though I know those stories, it was still fun to hear you tell them. I think this book is really going to bring a lot of smiles to people's faces.
Yeah.
In the hobby, yes, but well beyond.
Yeah.
Because I think that the group that's put in so much time and effort on this to present it in such a way, it's going to be something that people are going to enjoy reading for years to come.
Well, before you get into the Quinn find, you're bringing something that it's going to be really important. And I've rewritten. You read my intro, Leighton. I've rewritten my intro 5 times since you've read it, only to add a little paragraph, because I think it's important for people to really understand that from the time that we're writing this book to the time that it's going to be released, there may be 20 other finds that are not going to be involved in this project, number one. And number two, there are really kind of finds that happened every day in the hobby. So what we had to do, Ellen, myself, and Leighton, is we went out to different people, to auction houses, to private collectors, and we try to take a cross section of cards, memorabilia. Some of them are not very valuable, but it's the backstories that are really cool, and that's the thing that's most important. Tell us about without really giving away. You can tell us what the final what happened, but tell us about the Pat Quinn find.
Sure. So Pat was someone who was enamored with baseball and cards for decades, well before eBay. Brian certainly knows who Pat Quinn is.
Yeah, for sure.
And he had heard someone was at a local bar. And you kind of like, when you hear this, you're like, oh, did he get into a bar fight? No. Because back in the day, right, no one cared about cards. So he had placed an ad in the paper, and someone reached out, literally said, I think you should meet me at the local bar. I might have something you're interested in. And Pat was like, I'm not going to bring cash. So he was smart enough to do that. So anyway, he goes to meet the gentleman at a local bar. And let's just say he had some really significant signed vintage cards.
You can tell them what it was, but
great. So he had what was at the time, he thought, an amazing group of cards. It actually made up an entire set of 1933 Gaudy cards, but each and every card was signed.
Oh, God.
So
now think about this: a complete set,
signed,
totally signed. Now go to the second part of the story.
So the guy goes, well, if you really like this, let me tell you how I got it. I actually would race my brother in trying to complete the set, and I would go down with my brother to the ballpark. He's like, what do you mean? And so the gentleman goes, well, I think my brother also has a set. And Pat goes like, you mean a signed set? He's like, yeah, I told you. I was racing my brother to see who get it done first. And so I think I should pause there, because the rest of it is insane. But
don't get into it. Except there was some burglary that went.
There was a break-in involved. That's all.
There was a break-in involved. It's a cool story. We have a couple more minutes, Brian. I wanted let's tease them a little bit about how about this one here blew me away. The Air Jordan find.
Yeah. So I had a customer who, I'd known for a long, long time. and he collected only vintage stuff. And we had sold him an N28 Cap Anson and a PSA 9. We had sold him some crazy cards. This is a long time ago, 20 plus years ago. And that's all I knew that he had. I knew he had some autographed baseballs. And one day, this is at the beginning, I shouldn't say the beginning, but definitely for me, the beginning of modern cards. And so let's go back 6-7 years ago, when that market really seemed to take off. Out of nowhere, I get a text, and then it's from this guy. And he says, "Hey, are these worth anything?" And he had sent me like 15 images of Jordan cards that were all signed. And it was all the early stuff. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's
Your
crazy.
Christmas. That's insane.
I mean,
And this is the funniest part, Leighton. This is the best part. You're going to laugh. Keep in mind, not all of us knew what that stuff was right at that time. Okay, so I had to ask him to send me pictures of the back of the cards so I could see who made them. And see what years they were from so I could Google them. And so I Googled the cards, and some of the prices that were popping up even then were like 6, 7, 8,000. And these are cards that are 80,000 today or more, 100,000. And I see like 7,200, 14,000, 23,000. And I'm like, there is no way this is possible. And so there's 15 cards involved. And I call him back, and I make him an offer. And let's just say when I made him the offer, I didn't know what to offer. I was pretty conservative. Let's leave it at that.
You think?
Because I didn't believe what I was seeing in some of the numbers, because it just wasn't what we were used to dealing with at that time. Now things have changed. And so I make him the offer, and I remember on the phone, he's like, "What?" And I don't know if he's happy or if he's mad. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I kind of take the phone down, and I'm like, "Oh shit." And next thing he says is, "I just found these in our storage unit." He goes, "I would walk them to your office for that kind of money." So he ships them to me. I pay him, but then it gets even better.
This is the backstory. The backstory.
So those 15 cards sell for, at the time, $585,000.
Wow.
Which was significantly way more than I thought. So then after I get the cards and I send him the money, about 2 days later, he calls me and he says, "Hey, do you want all the inserts from the Jordans from the 90s? And I say, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, none of these are signed, but they're all the inserts. My sons and I collected them, and they're just sitting on the floor of our storage unit." I said, yeah, I'd like those. And so about 3 days later, he calls me and says, "Hey, you said you wanted these overnighted, and you gave me your FedEx account. Do you know it's 72 pounds of cards?" And I said, and my one employee who knows modern at the time way better than I did, he says, "Yeah, have him do it. Have him send them." And let's just say there was a red PMG Jordan in there.
Oh my God.
There was the PMG with the Chicago skyline.
Oh God.
Everything except the green Jordan. Pretty much everything was in there. And we bought those too, and that turned out really well also.
So,
Really
let me just ask you, Brian,
Yeah.
what would the value of what you purchased from that individual be today?
At the time when I purchased it, it was 1.7 million.
Wow.
Today it would be 8, 9, 10 million.
Good Lord.
All right. All right. So we're just gonna leave it at that. Again,
Yeah.
just another example of something that's wasn't really valuable, but is a cool story. Another Brian is a signed, and we'll give you the backstory. A
Yeah.
signed Babe Ruth / Al Capone baseball.
Whoa.
So there's a cool story there. A ball signed by both Babe
it's
Ruth and Al
super
Capone.
cool story.
It's already a cool story.
Yeah. So
So those are some of the things that we've added intertwined in the book that it's not $1 million piece, but there's a cool story behind it.
yeah.
Before we let you go, Leighton, what's going on with Just Collect, man? Some of the stuff you're posting, you're finding all kinds of stuff.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. The market, as Brian can certainly attest to, is completely insane. One of the things I've been preaching to collectors, and I'm sure you the same, Brian, is that, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the space at the moment because prices are really strong, it might be worth it for you to go back through your collection, figure out maybe you started a set a few years ago that no longer you're going to finish, or you ended up buying dupes, or you have a triplicate of, let's just say, a Mickey Mantle card that didn't mean anything to you at the time, but now it's gone up fivefold. So what I would recommend before you go to the National, and of course, you're going to bring some money with you, or you're going to bring electronic ability to give people money. But I would also say to try to absorb some of these sticker prices or some of the, shock you might have for where the market's been heading, because there's been a tremendous amount of additional demand, which obviously if the supply stays fixed in any economic model, right, the prices are going to rise. Try to leverage your own collection for things that maybe don't matter as much anymore, and try to turn that into something great, or a few pieces that are great for your collection. But certainly we've been talking about some fun stories, and Just Collect, meaning my company, has been buying and selling lots of great stuff, including a gentleman who remembers, guys, opening up packs of 1964 Topps baseball, but literally hundreds of packs. He completed the entire set from nickel packs, and he has hundreds of coins to kind of report that. So that's just kind of some of the fun stuff that we've been coming across. But I did want to plug our new company, which some people in the hobby know about and some people don't, but it's called AuctionWire. And what AuctionWire.ai does, including for Brian's company, Mile High, is for myself and others who, whether it be you're a collector, you're a dealer, you're an investor, you're a hybrid of any or all of those, is we make it simple for you to find the items that are for sale at auction or in fixed price marketplaces like at REA or at Memory Lane or in eBay. And we roll that all together in one place at AuctionWire.ai. And it's making the lives of collectors a lot more likely to find that grail card or that last card for your set,
something,
or a tough card that you're looking for.
A dear friend of mine, from one of my Florida friends, so I can tell him to go onto AuctionWire. He's looking for an E90-2 Wagner. So he can plug into that and see where it is, who has them, if there are any available, and go from there.
Yes, and what's really great is you can start a universal watch list. So in other words, if you want an E90-2 Wagner, you can have AuctionWire and its power work for you. The next time it becomes available for sale, either at auction, for example, in Mile High or Heritage, or let's say it becomes for sale in an REA marketplace fixed price listing, you'll be notified. And I think that information is really, really powerful, especially as we're all heading into the National and you're going to try to see what you're going to go after at the National. For me personally, I want to know what's out there first before I make big decisions on cards. And just because I know we have a long history, Tom, and obviously I've known Lou a long time as well, I wanted to offer the great American collectibles community the ability to try AuctionWire for free. So if you go to AuctionWire.ai and you use the code word American, you're going to be able to get 45 days for free as a trial before you'd have to pay anything. And to be clear, if you use it for 45 days and you don't like it, your credit card won't be charged anything at all. And we would love feedback. So if you have some feedback, you can hit us up right through the website or me directly, Leighton at justcollect.com. But we think this is a tremendous tool for collectors. And by the time the National rolls around, we believe people will be looking on their phones concurrently while on the floor at the National to see if there's another Joe Jackson Cracker Jack that might be out there that's not on the floor. And by the way, I just wanted to mention this last part. Shout out to our mutual friend, Ashbry. So we're actually onboarding some select dealers as well. So there is no
Okay.
other tool like this in the world that combines auction houses and live data. Right now we're at 30 plus, along with some fixed price marketplaces and some really key dealer inventory like Ash's and of course yours truly, Just Collect, as well as others we're going to add.
Listen, Leighton's going to be joining us periodically over the next months. Thanks for your help, Leighton. You've been a real pleasure to work with. We're having fun doing it, and hopefully, we're saying the book's going to be released at the National in 2027. Quite honestly, if we can get this book out to the public sooner than that, we're going to make every effort to do so. But we're going to see what happens. With that being said, Leighton, we'll see you down the road. Actually, I'll talk to you probably tomorrow.
Yeah,
And,
probably. I would say later today or tomorrow. I want to
right.
make it clear, Tom, so that Ellen can hear this on record. I'm willing to leave my day job for the book tour. Like, I'll dress as Kramer. I'll do whatever it takes. But man, you put me on Regis, you put me on Oprah. Like, I'll make sure you get a book and you get a book and you get a book.
You can handle all of that. You can handle all of that. All right, we're going to take a break now, Louis. We're going to move All Stars Cardboard Memories to the third segment. If that's okay. We're going to spend the next full segment on the auction, and then Brian's going to be with us for the rest of the hour. With that being said, hang in there. We're going to take a break, and we shall be right back.
Thanks, guys.
In 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, Mile High. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectibles Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Okay, we're back. Brian is in the house. Brian Drent from Mile High Card Company. Yeah, okay. Leighton's gone.
Leighton.
Hey, Brian, I've got to tell you, man, how the hell do you get these consignments? The consignments in this auction are like mind-blowing.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's just relationships. I've been doing this a long time. I mean, believe it or not, and it's hard for me to believe it. In March of next year, this is going to be 30 years.
Wow.
And so if you've done it for a while, people always ask me, how do you find that stuff? After a while, it starts to find you. But every auction's different. Believe me, this was a quick turn after our January auction, and it comes together, and I'm proud of this auction. But 3 weeks before before our culmination of our consignment period, it didn't look like it does today. So let's just.
I mean, it's just. I was going to say. I mean, do these come out of the woodwork? I'm looking at a couple of these, like a Babe Ruth 1933 Gaudi that came out of the Ruth collection.
Oh yeah, the card is absolutely destroyed. You can see it because literally it was in his pocket. It was Babe Ruth's own card, and comes from the Babe Ruth collection. And so, what a great story to be able to own a Babe Ruth 33 Gotti Babe Ruth, number 149, the red one, and it was Babe Ruth's own card. I mean, that's pretty insane.
I mean, it doesn't.
Is there a story behind it being in his pocket? Like, was he signing cards and handing them out or something?
I don't know the story to that, but I know that in his effects in the Babe Ruth collection and all of his material, that's where it was found. So, and obviously you can see that it's a well-worn copy. It's been well loved.
You also have an extremely rare 1915 Boston Red Sox team photo, a Type 1 photo. And that was Ruth's. I mean, are there any? Is that it? That photo? Because it's his rookie season.
What's interesting about that is about 3 years ago, we actually got that photo, and we were the ones that got it authenticated. At the time, it was the only team photo with that pose, and of the 1915 Red Sox. And Ruth's rookie year. Interestingly, we sold it. The consignor, which happens, decided to part with it because now Ruth material has really skyrocketed even since then. I think at the time we got $80,000. And since then he consigned it. But after we sold it, Al Cristofolian, Love of the Game, had sold a Type 3 photo of the same image, a little bit different tone to the image, but they had it relooked at by PSA, and they changed their opinion to a Type 1. So that's why there's actually two. They then in turn sold it, and it even went higher than when we sold it. Probably a year after that, I think it did 140 and change. And so it should, and that had some condition flaws, and this one absolutely does as well. Different types of condition flaws. So
sure.
I would generally view both photos in the same realm, and it's going to be really exciting to see where this one ends, especially with, as Leighton talked about in the last segment, how strong the market is, and the Ruth space is exploding. So it should be really interesting to see what happens with this, especially with obviously only 2 known copies.
Lou, you know what you and I have to do? We got to get a truck. Okay. We got to go to rent a pickup. We got to go to Sudbury, and we got to get some scuba diving outfit, and we got to find the piano. We got to find the freaking piano.
You're gonna laugh. I'm just wondering what else is at the bottom of that pond.
Right. Brian, you had a question. Go ahead, Lou.
I'm sorry, Brian. Talk a little bit about Tom was talking about consignments and how you get them and things like that. And we've seen such a change in the hobby over the last 20 years or so, with more and more money coming in, more investors coming in. The mentality of it has changed. How has the auction business evolved? How has consignments evolved?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Lou. I mean, 20 years ago, it was predominantly shows. It was predominantly print advertising. Obviously the market and our collectible space in general has changed dramatically. The money has changed. And I think it's quite honestly, and we've talked about this over the years, Tom, and I've said it 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I still think it's got a tremendous amount of growth ahead of us. We're not there yet. And so
I agree with you.
That said, things that we do differently today, obviously we still do shows, we still do print advertising, but now we're going to debut a podcast, or we're going to start working on that, so that'll be a new channel. And then but social media has become so big, electronic media, and so there's just so many more avenues to be able to facilitate the possibility of consignments and stay in front of our customers and interact with our customers. And I think ourselves, as well as a lot of our competitors, are finding new ways to be able to reach out to people. And you just never know what's going to be the trigger that when they decide it's time to sell. And then, obviously it's a very competitive situation, but it's always an interesting process. Let's leave it at that.
Divide percentages for me from people who are in the hobby and moving cards around and doing investment and flipping cards over and things like that, and the people who call you up and say, I found these in my grandfather's attic. How much are they worth?
Yeah, that still happens. And, more often than not, usually it's either off condition or a lot of people think that they found something that is probably, not nearly as good as they think it is. There's a lot of information out there. So the very first thing that every single person thinks is, I've got to get my cards graded. That's not always the case. So it's interesting, but like you said, Lou, when we get that phone call and somebody has found something, and it definitely still happens, there's nothing that gets your juices flowing more than that.
I bet.
Brian, do you, a lot of my friends, our friends in this hobby, have kind of not stopped collecting, but I mean, you could collect and collect and collect. Your personal collection, Brian, do you have a big personal collection, number one? And number two, does Brian Drent still look for certain items for his personal collection?
Yeah, you know what? I do have a personal collection, and I think people, I would be surprised that, myself and other guys like myself do have personal collections. I have more memorabilia in my collection than I do cards. I have a couple cards. You and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
I only have a couple cards. There's some pretty good cards. And then, but I definitely have some nice game used pieces, a lot of advertising, pieces mostly focused on cards. And is there things that, I keep my eye out for? I don't know if that's the case, or if it's something that strikes me that I have to have, or I have an interest in. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Denver Broncos and Denver teams in general. I'm going to the Avalanche playoff game tonight, so that'll be fun.
Great.
But
very cool.
But I have some Broncos things and some nice game used. I have, Elway and Manning and things.
So if something like, let's take this auction, for example. If something piques your interest that was consigned to you, have you ever approached the consignor and say, hey, would you be interested in selling this to me outright?
Yeah, I have. It doesn't happen very often at all. It really doesn't. But probably every other year, every other 2 or 3 years, there'll be something that really intrigues me, and it's sometimes it's not even what people would think. It's people would laugh sometimes. I grew up in the I was born in the late 60s, grew up in the 70s, and there was a time when a guy came and consigned like all of the 75 to 79 Hostess complete sets on complete boxes.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember going to the store with my mom, and she would let me pick out one box, and so I was like, I could have all the boxes perfect, and so I bought them, and I still have them.
Have you
And
mentioned
things like that,
I'm sorry.
even like Kellogg sets, they're not worth a lot, but I still like them. And so just little things like that. It's
Yeah,
not
I
always
listen.
about the money.
I hear you. Same
I'm
way,
sorry to
Lou. You had a
interrupt you.
question?
Have you ventured into the modern market at all, either in memorabilia or collectibles?
You know what? Collectibles, obviously, cards, we absolutely have to. I haven't personally bought a lot of modern like jerseys or anything. We deal in it every day, but it's a fast moving market. Obviously, we're a little more well versed in vintage, but we definitely dabble in it, and we've got some cool items in this auction that are modern, but we'd be fools if we looked away from it.
Brian, can we highlight some of the items in this auction? What would
Yeah,
you
of
like
course.
to highlight?
Anything you'd like.
I'm
You want
gonna
me
leave.
to?
Yeah, I'd like you to.
All right, let me grab a catalog. It's right here. So, a couple that I'll talk about that I absolutely love. We have Lot 1, which is a T206 Green Portrait Cy Young, and it's a PSA 8.
Wow.
Incredibly perfectly centered, and it's got an NBA Mike Baker authentic gold sticker on it for extraordinary eye appeal. And it really should be interesting where that card ends up just because of the caliber of the card. And then another card that I'd make mention of, just because it's a Pop 2 in an SGC holder, and there's only actually 3 PSAs. We have a 57 Bart Starr rookie in a SGC 9, and it's also got an NBA gold sticker, which they actually said that they would grade the card a 9.5, thereby making it really the highest graded example known in the hobby. You previously had mentioned the 15 Red Sox photo, which is extraordinary, and that'll be really fun to see. But then we have lot number 7 is what we called the quintessential Ty Cobb photo, and it was called a Type 3 by PSA, and that's because Type 3 and Type 1 are very similar. There wasn't this is up to 2 years after the first image, and it's the same image that was used for the T206 Cobb, the green portrait and the red portrait, and it was signed by Cobb to Smokey Joe Wood.
Wow.
That's going to be
cool.
really an extraordinary.
Very cool.
We also have an E90-1 Joe Jackson rookie, which we had NBA grade, Mike Baker, and it graded a 2 with a silver label, which is their highest label for their own holder, and it just designates extraordinary eye appeal. And the card just appears so much nicer than a 2. It has a little technical flaw in the middle of the card, a little tiny wrinkle, but it projects like a card that's like X. And for that card, the shoeless Joe Jackson rookie, it's going to be awesome to see where that ends up. And those are just a couple of them.
Well, there's some other stuff here, Brian, that kind of piqued my interest. That I know you do periodically, but not really often. But you've got some unbelievable non-sports sets and items in this 1959 Popeye complete set, number 1 all-time finest in the PSA set registry. You've got the 1962 Top Civil War News unopened rack pack.
How crazy is that?
I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah, well, 36 rack packs of the Civil War issue, which is a great set, and there's 36 unopened rack packs. I mean, where do you find that?
I mean, you really got some cool stuff. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. Brian's in the house. We're going to talk a little more about the upcoming spring auction. We're going to talk about the national, and then we're going to get into a few other subjects. When we come back, though, first we're going to go. We're going to speak about our book, An All-Stars Cardboard Memories. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
If you're a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on the tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
Okay, we are back, and Brian Drent from Mile High Card Company is in the house with us. But right now, it's time for a segment for an All-Stars from an All-Stars Cardboard Memories, brought to us each week by our good friend Paul Borges and the staff at PB Collectibles. Go to pbcollectibles.com for that special vintage card at an amazing price. And, we've been touting the book. This is a book that Ellen and I wrote along with Rico's help and the help of Joe Orlando. I said this every week. Rico played during the golden age of baseball. He played with or against 56. Think about that. 56 Hall of Famers that were friends of his that he knew, some he didn't know as well. But, I mean, he played against, the Mantles, the Mays, the Aarons, the Robinsons. Just a great, great time to play baseball. So we wrote the book, and Rico would talk about his relationship with the player. Then Joe wrote the narrative on the baseball card. You can go to Tom Zappler Media for the book, and also I think it's on sale. I think it's like $30 or something. But anyway, so this week we're going to feature Rico and what his thoughts were on playing against knuckleballer Hoyt Wilhelm. Hoyt had an extremely tough knuckleball to hit because he had some speed on it. With a slow knuckler, you have a chance to adjust and follow it down. But with a little faster one like Hoyt threw, it was pretty tough to make contact. Wilhelm was primarily a reliever, but a darn good one. I faced him for the first time in 1965, my rookie year. He was with the White Sox at the time, was considered pretty old because he was in his early 40s. First time I ever got a hit off him, I was in the middle of August, and we were at Fenway Park. I had faced him 2 or 3 times that season without much success. It was the bottom of the 8th, and I let off the inning. William throws me a knuckleball. Then he throws another knuckleball and another. I was getting a little flustered, but I was determined to make contact. I didn't want to look like a dumb rookie. The knuckleballs kept coming, and the count was 3-2. All of a sudden, he throws me a fastball, and for some reason, I was thinking fastball. I took the ball deep. I hit it up to next where the Green Monster is now. I say it was about an 80-mile-an-hour fastball. I was running around the bases on cloud 9, and all the way around the bases, Wilhelm was swearing at me the whole time. He was calling me names and yelling that, and he yelled that for the rest of my career. He would call me names. I would never get a chance to hit another. He said I would never get a chance to hit another fastball from him. There I was, a 22-year-old kid, and a future Hall of Famer was swearing at me. I was absolutely thrilled. One thing I found to be interesting about Hoyt, and Rico, I remember Rico telling me about this and kind of showing me. He said, I found one interesting thing about Hoyt was the way he held his head when he was on the mound. His head would always be tilted off to the side. So when I faced him, I would try to hold my head like he did. So he said that Wilhelm would be on the mound and his head would be like this. So Rico says, I'm at bat, and I decided to put my head like that to see if it would be any better. He said, so I would try to hold it. I figured that way I could see the ball straight. That really didn't work very well for me, but I had to try it. The knuckleball that Wilhelm threw was a lot tougher than most other pitchers. When you face a knuckleball pitcher for the first time, you normally take a pitch to see what he's got, to see the movement. When Hoyt was on, his knuckleball had so much movement that it was almost unhittable. By comparison, Wilbur Wood, for example, who pitched for the White Sox right after Hoyt, can make the knuckleball trail away from the hitter or come in on the hitter, but it was slower, which allowed you to wait for it and time it better, especially if it was a hanger. Wilhelm was a good one. At that time, he was considered one of the best relievers to ever play the game. He was a perennial all-star. Even though it took him a while to get into the Hall of Fame, he deserved it. He was actually the first relief pitcher ever voted in. I have always been intrigued by knuckleballers. Their motion does not create as much wear and tear in the arm. Hoyt was able to pitch and pitched well until he was almost 50 years old. Imagine that. Hoyt was a real tough one. And that's another segment from an All-Stars cardboard memory. Again, they're pretty cool stories that Rico gave, and we had some great times doing it. I would interview Rico in bar rooms and restaurants, sitting at a bar, having a cocktail at my house, at his house, and I just turn on the phone and just let him talk. All right, let's get back to Brian. Brian, one thing I want to get your thought on this, and I mentioned this last week. Last month, PSA, $227 million in sales in fraud that they uncovered.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, those are sick numbers. And there was $227 million in sales on eBay last month. $227 million in sales. As you said earlier, the hobby is very, very, very healthy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, though, on PSA investing? I just read this. Probably you have too. They're going to invest $200 million in more infrastructure and hiring 1,000 people. What does that tell you about the direction they're going in?
Yeah, that actually blew my mind. Not that the 200 million, which is obviously monumental to infuse into the company, but the 1,000 new hires by the end of 26.
Yeah,
I mean, just think about that for a second, and then the amount of space that they're going to annex and get more space. It's astonishing.
Really what's
I've
interesting?
been asking for a while, Brian, because this is where the shift in the hobby seems to be to me, because grading has reached a logjam. And I was wondering what the evolution might be, but sounds like a big shift for PSA alone.
I'm going to mention a conversation that I had with one of the higher ups at PSA in the last couple of weeks, way high up, and asked him the question. Well, pretty much asked him the question about AI and how AI is impacting it, and they're pretty adamant that they're going to use AI as a tool. There's no doubt using it as a tool now, but the final judgment is going to come from a human being. Again, that's what we're being told, that it is. It's going to be a human being that makes the final decision on whatever is being done as far as grading. I mean, how can you not use AI? But it's going to be interesting, especially on modern cards. It's a no-brainer, Brian. We all know that. But
I think so, and definitely, where one area on modern cards I think AI is going to be instrumental is forgeries, and
absolutely,
I think the printing technology and the ability to forge this material is I don't know if it's going to outpace. It's monumental, and
so
AI I think is going to be used as a great tool.
And I think that's a good thing. But let's talk about AI and the grading of a T206 Nap Lajoie PSA 2 or 1 or 3, whatever.
I think if I hear what you're saying correctly, and I think I do, and what I read, if they're going to use AI and ultimately come down to human beings, AI might be the great tool that'll help with, potentially centering, potentially some other
trim.
Maybe. I mean, T206 is going to be really difficult. I think it's difficult for human beings. But I think there's ways to use AI and then ultimately leave the grade to the human being, and that sounds like the way to go.
I think so too.
Do you think there's a place in the hobby for an eye appeal type grade where not all 2s are the same, not all 5s are the same?
I think that's what we're seeing right now with NBA, and I think if you guys have noticed, I definitely have, and I know others have. The prices for some of the material that's been designated either silver or gold NBA are really exploding.
Why don't you explain? Can you explain how Mike? Can you explain the whole that whole process, how Mike works it, and what the company is all about, Brian? Because a lot of our listeners and viewers don't even know about NBA yet.
Yeah, no. Mike is
Mike Baker.
Mike Baker is using a sticker system, and it's based on eye appeal. And so the silver label is for the top 15% of the examples in the marketplace of that given card. So let's say in this case, an E90-1 Joe Jackson. A silver label would designate top 15% of that card in the given grade that they're looking at, whereas the gold is for the top 5%. And believe me, he's very, very difficult. It is not easy to achieve those silver and or obviously the gold stickers.
So again, I'm playing Mickey the Dunce here. A PSA 6,
sure,
or PSA 6. Pick a guy, and a PSA 6 pick a guy, they could have two different designations from Mike, correct? Am I understanding that correctly? Where one PSA 6 doesn't look like another PSA 6?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to eye appeal, and it's just how you touched on it, a second or two ago, where you said not every 6 is the same. Not every graded card is the same. A PSA 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be, they're not all the same. We see plenty of 4s that look significantly better and almost appear near mint, but may have a small technical flaw that holds them back to a very minimal grade of a 4 versus a card that just snuck into a 4 holder. And those two cards shouldn't sell for the same kind of money. And the marketplace is deciding that those two cards aren't the same kind of money.
Interesting.
And that's
Louis,
good
why don't
for
you
the seller, right? Because that's good for the seller because it allows them, because that's kind of subjective judgment. But if you can have that certification on there, you can sell it with
it does. But I think we've got a ways to go, Lou, in terms of, let's say somebody that walks up to our table, and we were recently in the Strongsville show, and then I saw Tom in Boston. And somebody walks up, and let's say they have a 57 Mickey Mantle, and it's a PSA 7. And one card is off center, maybe 65-35, even 70-30, something along those lines. And it's got a little bit of a hit corner, but still gets a 7. And then you have the 7 that you look at and you think to yourself, how in the world is this not a better grade than a 7? Unfortunately, the guy who walks up with the 1, he sees a price on online. Let's say it's on Vintage Card Prices or Card Ladder, and he sees that one sold for an extraordinary price. He wants the same price for his card, but it's not the same card. And it's sometimes very difficult to explain to that person, "Hey, I'll pay you a fair price, and we would be able to take this." And make a transaction and buy it from you, or you can consign it, but don't expect this number for this card. And many people understand very well, but sometimes right now everybody wants what they want.
Louis, why don't you tell us about our friend Tom Finkelmeyer and the Finkelmeyer Insurance Company?
Well, the Finkelmeyer Insurance Agency has been insuring collectibles since the early 80s. The late Tom Finkelmeyer wrote the original sports memorabilia insurance policy when no one else in the industry was insuring sports collectibles. A lifelong collector of sports cards, Tom Sr. instilled the love of collecting in Tom Jr., who is the current president of Finkelmeyer Insurance Agency. Tom Finkelmeyer Jr., with 3 decades of insurance experience, has paired that expertise with 50 years of collecting, and with a litany of professional designations, including counseling and risk management, Tom covers every aspect of your collectibles insurance needs. Unlike some companies that sell collectibles insurance directly to the consumer online, Finkelmeyer Insurance Agency is the only independent retail agent who specializes in sports memorabilia and collectibles nationwide. Representing all major companies that sell collectibles insurance, there's no agent that insures more collectors, dealers, appraisers, auctioneers, or events in the collectibles hobby than Finkelmeyer Insurance. Our good friend and hobby legend John Tobby of JT Sports has been using Finkelmeyer Insurance for over 20 years. If you want to use them, go to thefia.com. That's the website, thefia.com. That's Finkelmeyer Insurance, where collecting is our passion.
You mentioned John Tobby, and we only have about a minute left. You mentioned Tobby, and we have quite a few bats in the new book. everything trickles down to Tobby. It's amazing how every bat mentioned in this book trickles down to Tobby. So I get a story from an auctioneer. I get a story from a private collector. He can only take it back so far. And then I call Tobby up and says, John, what's the backstory to this? And then he gives me the backstory. There's some really cool stuff.
To your Babe Ruth point, do you bet there's a bat in the bottom of that pond? A bat or two in the bottom of that pond?
No, but I think the piano is really there.
Piano is there, yeah.
Based on what I've read, it's not fiction. He got cocked one night, drinking, carousing, and they pushed that into. See, that pond is a really murky pond, and I know a couple of scuba divers have gone in there looking for it, but they've come up empty-handed. But what would a Babe Ruth game-used piano be worth today, Brian, if we could bring that thing up from the pond?
I don't know, but we'd love to find out in a Mile High Card Company auction.
All right, when does the auction end?
It ends June 6th, and we're scheduled to go live on Friday the 22nd, but
no, I thought it is. I thought it was Thursday.
I would stay close to your computers because it may go up live tomorrow on Thursday.
Good, and we're going to be seeing you at the National like we do every year. I think it's going to be this year's National.
I think it's going to be incredible. It's insane.
It's going to be insane. It's going to be insane on a couple of different levels. But as you said at the very beginning of this show, this hobby is going in so many different directions now. And all of those directions are going to be at the National, whether it be this technology or this technology. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
I thought last year was crazy, and I think this year is going to make last year look lackluster.
We're going to be broadcasting on Friday like we usually do from 1 to 3, I believe, on the Burkus stage. And my guest host this year is going to be, I don't know if do you know Gordy Bonkers?
I do know Gordy a little bit, not great.
Gordy's going to be co-hosting with us. So
is he really?
We're going to have some fun. We're going to do something.
I hope I get an invite.
You're on the list, baby. You're on the list. With that being said, Louis, as always, you did a great job. Don't forget the Mile High Card Company auction. Keep your eyes open. It could open up tomorrow. And with that being said, Brian, you're always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the contributions to the book. We just scratched upon it. They're great stories.
Sounds great.
With you and all of your other cohorts. There's some great stories in there. With that being said, thank you for all your support and happy collecting.